The Longbox Crusade presents FanFilmFridays. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fan Film Fridays. You know, that show where I look at online fan films down here in the basement at Longbox Crusade headquarters. I am your host, as always, Clinton Robinson. And full disclosure, folks, I haven't been feeling so well lately. You know, kind of on the sickly side. And, well, quite frankly, I felt like I could use a little story, you know, somebody to help cheer me up. And, well, you know, I just happened to, you know, throw a message in a bottle out. Well, there's no windows, so I really don't know how it got out. But the only person who answered it was Sean Ross. So, hi, Sean. You ready to read a story?
This isn't one of those kissing stories, is it? Because that's not what I signed up for, man.
I mean, I don't want to spoil how it ends, but
I'm good, man.
I put on my pretty lipstick and everything.
Oh, see, well, now I'm going to have to hang around, you know. Yeah, the lipstick got me. No, I'm good, man. I thank you for having me. It's nice to be back in the basement. You know, I fall for it every time. You're like, hey, I've got Hostess fruit pies, and I'm always like, okay, but last time you chained me to the wall, and you're like, no, this time it's just Hostess fruit pies, and I still fall for it. Every time. And then the kicker is you never actually give me a Hostess fruit pie. You give me that little Debbie crap.
I would, but you know, they're the same ones that came out the year that those comics were all in the, you know.
Those things last forever, man. There's no expiration date. That wasn't an accident. You look at those packages and you're like, when do these expire? And they literally, the package says, never.
Oh, well, since you are here and obviously not carrying a storybook with you, instead, would you like to watch a fan film?
Let's do it.
I mean, I've had you down here to look at Italian X-Men.
Which was awesome.
And I've had you down here to look at the most nightmare fuel-inducing story from Neil Gaiman ever.
Yeah, which was awesome.
And I've had you down here to look at Gay Shakespeare.
Oh, that was my favorite.
Not Shakespeare. Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, that one was phenomenal. That was my favorite.
So, I mean, what else can I do to top all that except ask you to watch The Princess Bride?
I'm always down to watch The Princess Bride. The only thing I wish in watching The Princess Bride, I love it. It's a classic. I just kind of wish they would update it with like current actors or modern stars. That's the only thing I've ever wanted.
Well. Have I got a treat for you? Because we're going to watch it as acted out by every Lego piece you've ever seen. Wait, no, not modern enough? Okay. Well, quite frankly, folks, if you haven't seen the show notes or anything else, Shauna and I are going to look at something called Home Movie The Princess Bride, a.k.a. Princess Bride Home Movie Edition.
And benefiting World Central Kitchen, right?
Yes. And in order to understand exactly what this has to take a little sidestep into things, because it sort of requires remembering back a few years to a thing called Quibi. Do you remember Quibi, Sean?
I remember if you say his name backwards, he goes back to the fifth dimension. But other than that, I don't remember.
Okay, for the 5 people out there that say yes, they do remember Quibi, good for you because you're going to win trivia night one of these days. For the rest of the populace that, probably also forgot what a Zune was, Quibi was an online streaming service that was intended to compete with things like Netflix and Hulu and so forth by doing the exact opposite of what they do. Instead of movies and TV shows, they had shows, they had movies, but they were in like 5 and 6 minute chunks because this was supposed to be the streaming service. Well, let's all be honest, that you could watch on the can.
Is Quibi some sort of acronym? Like, I don't know, something about avoiding your bowels while while watching the show, TV.
I mean, it would make sense, but according to Wikipedia, Quibi, well, it was founded by Jeffrey Katzenberg, so I'm sure that makes a whole lot of sense for some people.
Well, he had DreamWorks, so now he has PoopWorks. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, like, it really was intended for the when you have a short break, you can watch you can like watch an episode kind of thing. Watch it on your smoke break, watch it while you have lunch, so on and so forth. The Quibi service launched in April of 2020, and it was shut down by December of 2020.
Oh, wow.
And in January...
talk about unfortunate timing to launch. I mean, wow.
Yeah. And in January of 2021, Quibi's content library was sold to Roku for less than $100 million.
Oh.
And as we all know, you can watch Roku stuff for the cost of a Roku device.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. So, yeah. And, Wikipedia makes sure to note that the platform's concepts and failure inspired widespread mockery. So, we're not the only ones.
Nope. But it did give us this.
Yes, it did give us our home movie, Princess Bride, which sort of barely falls within the parameters of being a fan film, but also is exactly what you expect from a fan film. And that in and of itself requires another sidestep of explanation because, Sean, did anything eventful in the world happen in 2020?
I mean, I stubbed my toe. That was a really bad day. And then
apparently Quibi
shut down. Yeah, I was like the first subscriber to Quibi, and they shut down. Oh, and we had a worldwide pandemic that further exacerbated divisions in our country. But probably the greatest loss from 2020 was Quibi.
Oh, but yeah, everybody was dealing with a big outbreak of COVID-19, including professional actors, directors, and so forth. And Rob Reiner, director of the original Princess Bride, he got a wonderful idea that would benefit, I just lost my notes.
World Central Kitchen.
Yes, thank you. World Central Kitchen, to do a remake, shot for shot, line for line practically, with a few establishing shots omitted, so on and so forth, of The Princess Bride. He made sure to actually acquire the rights to do so, got Jason Reitman to direct, and split it up into these 10 little parts on Quibi. So the film itself runs, a little over an hour. And, he got the idea. We can't go to studios. We can't, make a real production out of this. Everyone, get your parts, record them at home on your cell phone, use whatever you have available for props, costumes, etc., and we will all mesh them together and make a movie. And this Frankenstein creation became home movie The Princess Bride. So, this is where I say, first of all, if you've already seen the original The Princess Bride, you know the plot.
Mm-hmm.
But Sean and I are going to really just spoil the heck out of this here in a little bit anyway. Check the show notes. Go watch the thing on YouTube. It has been posted to YouTube, not by the original creators. It's up there 2 or 3 different times, and the views are in the millions. So, people love this thing. But yeah, check the show notes. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to play, I don't even know if there is a trailer for this. We might just, play Let's All Go to the Lobby right here.
You can play the trailer for the original Princess Bride.
That's true. We could do that. Either way, we're going to do that, come back, and have a nice little discussion.
Hi, people.
The Princess Buttercup!
Your grandfather's here.
What is it?
The Princess Bride. As you wish.
What is this? Is this a kissing story?
Keep your shirt on. Let me read.
I did not hire you for your brains, you hippopotamic landmass! My father's...
Oh, look, Grandpa. She marries Wesley. I'm sure of it.
Yes, you're very smart. Shut up. Oh, smart.
What's the matter?
They're kissing again.
I don't understand.
Jesus, Grandpa, what did you read me this thing for?
I can stop now, if you want.
No, you can read a little bit more.
He has very good arms.
I don't think you would accept my help since I am just waiting around to kill you.
That does put a damper on our relationship.
Who are you?
No one of consequence.
Okay. When you see his face, the moment you see his face, you smash it with the rock.
Well, he's not very sportsmanlike.
Could it be a trap?
I always think everything could be a trap. That's why I'm still alive.
Inhale this. Do not touch.
All that time it was your cup that was poisoned.
I poisoned both the glasses.
You can die slowly, cut into 1,000 pieces.
As you wish.
Surrender! You mean you wish to surrender to me? Very well. I accept.
Once we're out of sight, take him back to Florin and throw him into the pit of despair.
So as to be torture. Tyrone, you know I love watching you work.
Get some rest. If you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything.
There will be blood tonight!
Not to 50! He's dead. I've seen worse.
True love, Max. He said true love.
You just wiggled your finger.
Guys, look at me.
The Dread Pirate Brothers is here for your soul.
Man and wife. Say man and wife.
Man and wife.
Drop your sword.
This is true love. You think this happens every day?
Death cannot stop true love. All it can do is delay it for a while.
I'll never doubt again.
Have you ever considered piracy? You'd make a wonderful Dread Pirate, Roberts.
Grandpa, can you come over tomorrow and read it again?
As you wish.
Okay, everybody back? Good. And if you came to this episode waiting for Sean to talk, you're going to have to wait just a little bit longer because I have some things to say. Okay. You know how I usually go through the whole cast list, directors, et cetera, and so forth. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna say roles. I'm just gonna say who's in this because there are 90 plus people in this.
Yeah, it's IMDb, the movie.
It really is. Okay, so settle in, folks, because I'm going to go through this, and hopefully I don't mess up too many of these actors' names because, yeah, it's me. All right, so the film stars Brad Savage, Josh Gad, McKenna Grace, Keith L. Williams, Logan Kim, Joey King, Rob Reiner, Adam Sandler, J.K. Simmons, Giancarlo Esposito, Sarah Silverman, Roman Mars, Robert Wool, Carl Reiner, Retta, Chris Pine, Common, Jack Black, Caitlin Deaver, David Spade, John Hamm, Sam Rockwell, Neil Patrick Harris, Brandon Routh, Courtney Ford, Sophie Turner, Lucas Hedges, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Tommy Dewey, Taika Waititi, Paul Rudd, Carrie Elwes, Annabelle Wallace, Tiffany Haddish, Zazie Beetz, Mackenzie Davis, Alice Oswalt, John Hamm's dog, Leslie Bibb, David Burtka, Joe Jonas, Jenna Ortega, Jennifer Garner, Zoe Saldana, Beanie Feldstein, Penelope Cruz, Kimberly Brook, Zoe Dutch, Robin Wright, Pedro Pascal, Nick Kroll, Oscar Nunez, Diego Luna, Finn Wolford, Sarah Cooper, Keegan-Michael Key, John Cho, Catherine Reitman, Javier Bardem, Natalie Morales, Jason Segel, Nick Kroll, Brian Baumgarten, Dave Bautista, Shaquille O'Neal, Craig Robinson, Catherine Reitman, Charlize Theron, Zoe Dutch, Rainn Wilson, Angela Kinsey, King Bach, Patton Oswalt, Hugh Jackman, Thomas Lennon, David Oyelowo, Jose Andres, Don Johnson, Elijah Wood, Dennis Haysbert, Ernie Hudson, Penelope Cruz, James Vanderbeek, Oliver Lennon, BJ Novick, Andy Serkis, Stephen Merchant, Meredith Salinger, Bryan Cranston, Leo James Routh, Sophie Turner's dog, Nicholas Braun, Richard Speight Jr., Ari Grainer, and John Malkovich.
Ooh, take a breath. I do want to point out, I'll give you some breathing room here. Jose Andres, for people who don't know, is a world-famous chef. In fact, he was an Iron Chef on that Food Network show, and he is actually the founder of World Central Kitchen, and he has put that whole organization together. They go into, areas devastated by natural disasters around the world or areas facing famine, and they go in and they teach folks how to sort of raise crops, and they, cook for them. They provide them food. They provide them clean water, those kinds of things. So an amazing, amazing, amazing charity started by Jose Andres. So it makes sense that he's in it.
That is wonderful. And thank you very much for that bit of insight, because I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his, not only as a chef, but I've kind of followed him as he's started this, again, this charity on his own, started really small and is now this, worldwide charity that feeds thousands of people a year. It's pretty cool.
Okay. All right, folks. So time to dive into the plot. It's the exact same as the original Princess Bride.
Literally.
Oh, that's right. There are some of you who haven't seen the original or, just want me to fill airspace. All right. So this is where I get to steal from Wikipedia, because sometimes, fan films have Wikipedia entries, and that makes this job a whole lot easier. In contemporary times, a grandfather reads the story of The Princess Bride to his dismissive, sick grandson. In the story, set in medieval times in the fictional country of Florin, Buttercup and her farmhand Westley fall in love. Westley goes off to seek his fortune to marry Buttercup, but she soon learns of his death at the hands of the dread pirate Robert, and comes to accept the marriage proposal of Prince Humperdinck. Near her wedding day, three scoundrels, Vicini, Inigo Montoya, and Fezzik, abduct Buttercup at the request of Humperdinck to make it appear as an act from a neighboring kingdom and pretense to start a war. They are chased by the Man in Black. No, not Johnny Cash. Later revealed to be the dread pirate Roberts. Roberts beats and spares Inigo and Fezzik, and survives a poison challenge from Vicini to free Buttercup. He reveals that he is actually Westley, that the dread pirate Roberts is a title passed along from one holder to the next, and that he had come after hearing that Buttercup's life is in danger. The two are soon caught by Humperdinck and Count Tyrone Rugen. Humperdinck returns Buttercup to the castle to prepare for the wedding, claiming that Wesley returned to the sea, when in reality Rugen has taken Wesley to be tortured in a secret chamber. When Buttercup refused to show any love for Humperdinck, Humperdinck uses Rugen's torture device to apparently kill Wesley. Inigo and Fezzik have reunited near the castle, hear Wesley's final screams, discover his body, and take him to Miracle Max. Max finds Wesley clings to life due to his true love for Buttercup and helps resuscitate him. Wesley, still half prone from being nearly dead, devises a plan with Inigo and Fezzik to interrupt the wedding to rescue Buttercup. Inigo, learning that Rugen is his father's killer, gets revenge by killing Rugen after a long fight. Fezzik helps Wesley to Buttercup's room. Wesley wounds Humperdinck to shame him before he, Buttercup, and Fezzik flee with Inigo. The grandson, who had told the father to skip all the kissing parts in the book before, allows him to read the final kissing scene in the book. And that, in a very, shall we say, concise yet missing some of the points nutshell, is the plot to The Princess Bride.
It's a pretty straightforward plot. The charm of the movie is in the acting.
Yeah. So, now that I have spewed out, nearly 100 names and, spoiled the entire plot of this movie, Sean, what do you think of home movie The Princess Bride?
The only thing it's missing, considering it was filmed during the pandemic, is they should have gotten a bunch of people to sing Imagine by John Lennon. That would have been the only thing to make it better. No, this is phenomenal. I mean, it's super charming. Look, they're working with gold, right? Like, it's The Princess Bride, the original Princess Bride, written by William Goldman, directed by Rob Reiner, like you said, is just, an eternal classic that everybody loves. And they were smart in two ways. One, they didn't mess with the plot or the dialogue. Like, it's a shot-for-shot remake of the movie. And then two, they completely embraced we're all doing this in our backyards with our phones. And that is the charm of this remake. That's the charm of this fan film, is the seeing how creatively people came up. Like, there's the scene where Inigo and Wesley and Fezzik are hiding behind a wall, and they're trying to think about how to sneak into the castle, and they all stand up and peek over the wall. Well, the actor who's shooting that scene is the only one there, so he draws the other two in, and he has somebody hold up the drawn in faces. So it's really cute. And then the reason the dogs are in some of them are to play the other person. I love there's a bunch of gender swapping in this, which is really funny.
Yes.
The female actors are playing the male role, the male actors are playing the female roles. It's just delightful. Everybody's clearly having a really good time. Some people are super, super into it. Like, I would give a huge shout out to Rainn Wilson, who played Dwight on The Office. He fully embraces his section and is like, I mean, it's a great scene. He acts it really brilliantly. And then there are other scenes where no one's non-committal, but there are other scenes where people are a little bit more in on the joke. So nice range of performances. What did you think about it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love this. You're talking about people that are way into it and loving every moment of it. Brandon Routh and Courtney Ford, who are a married couple. You might know them from Legends of Tomorrow,
Superman.
Or Brandon Routh from literally just about anything possible. And I know you've seen Courtney Ford and stuff, whether you know her name or not. At one point, they are Wesley and Buttercup going through the fire swamp, and then suddenly it's a flash, and they have switched roles.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
And the worst part is, like, Routh seems like, first of all, Brandon Routh could have easily played the role of Wesley, like, no problem.
God. Yeah.
But when they switch, he looks like he's having so much more fun being Buttercup.
Oh, yeah.
Because he obviously cannot fit into her dress. He just, like, holds it in front of him.
It's awesome. My favorite,
as far as, like, crazy stuff, though, Thomas Lennon, who people might know from the series Reno 911.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Comes out in his full Officer Dangle uniform and just performs as Prince Humperdinck in it. And it is so hilarious.
That was awesome. My favorite Brandon Routh story, I don't know if I saw an interview with him, and I don't know if it was Howard Stern, who it was, but they were like, oh, hey, how did you get into acting? And he was like, oh, yeah, I was just a student at, I think, like University of Iowa, and people kept telling me I should model, and I was like, oh, whatever, I'm kind of lazy about it. He's like, so then I just decided to, like, go to a modeling agency. And the next thing I knew, somebody reached out and they're like, "Oh, you look like Superman. You should play Clark Kent." Like literally, it's like an Anne Margaret early 40s Hollywood. Like I was sitting at a soda fountain, drinking a Coke, and a director walked by and saw me. I'm like, Brandon Routh is so good looking that literally the world said to him, hey, you should play Superman. And he was like, oh, cool. Okay, I'll do that. And so I love that I actually just really love him. If you ever watch him in interviews, he's super chill. And he's actually really humble. He's really a funny guy. And he was great on Legends of Tomorrow. But no, that gender swap moment is so funny because he's so gigantic. And he's like, supposed to be Buttercup, which is great. I know we'll probably spend a lot of the episode doing this. Another shout out I would give beyond Rainn Wilson is there. Well, there. I mean, a million great performances. Seth Rogen as Miracle Max is phenomenal. I mean,
and I don't like Seth Rogen.
Oh,
I love him in this.
Yeah, I love Seth Rogen. I think he's hilarious. If you've ever seen The Long Shot, it bombed in the theaters. It's Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron, and she's running for president, and he's like a reporter following her. It is hilariously funny movie, super underrated movie from the last 5 years, 10 years. But I love Seth Rogen. But the Billy Crystal is the original Miracle Max, right? So you get Billy Crystal doing his old Jewish guy impression, which is just amazing. Well, if you're like, who can do another great old Jewish guy, impression? It's Seth Rogen is awesome. So he's amazing. And then speaking of old Jewish guy, the other big shout out I would give, because he plays multiple roles, but he does them brilliantly, is Nick Kroll, who just does his full big mouth, spit in the side of his mouth and cheeks. And he's in Oh Hello There with John Mulaney on Broadway, where he plays they play two old Jewish guys. And he's fully, I think when he's Fezzik, Inigo, he's all three of them, right? At one point, he plays all three roles at one point, which is phenomenal. Yeah. And the thing I love about it is he is fully channeling Wallace Shawn from the original movie, and does a brilliant job. So I loved Nick Kroll in this. What about you? What was another standout for you?
Oh, okay. I mean, obviously, Patton Oswalt doing Vizzini is, I mean, that was like no-brainer casting right there. Mm-hmm. To be fair, we say Robin Wright is in this. She is in reused footage from the original film.
Yeah.
Just right at the last. But, I mean, if we're going to talk outstanding performance, and if you did not know it was coming, Cary Elwes showing up.
Yeah.
As Prince Humperdinck instead of Wesley. That is, I mean, that's like star power right there. And the dude pulled it off. It's like he was just dying to play the villain for like the last 40 years.
Did it take you a second to realize? Because it took me a second to realize it was him. I was like, oh my God, that looks like Cary Elwes. And I was like, oh my God, that is Cary Elwes. And I was like, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so great that they got him to do this.
But at the same time, that's like the reaction to everybody in this. Like, wait, is that? Oh my God, it is.
No, it's so funny. I mean, yeah, he's brilliant in that. Paul Rudd is great. There's just awesome performances.
Yeah, I got to think. Javier Bardem, when he plays Inigo during the fight with Count Rugen, and every time the camera cuts away from him to Rugen and goes back to him, his sword is a different household object.
Yeah.
Like it starts out as like a foam sword, and it comes back and it's a feather duster.
Yeah.
And it goes away and it comes back and it's a lightsaber. Speaking of, there are like 20 times more lightsabers than you would ever imagine in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great little insight into what celebrities keep in their homes, because a number of them have full regalia, like are fully decked out in costumes, and you're like, they have that stuff just lying around. And then there's my favorite moments are the ones where they're like fighting with salad tongs, or and they keep bumping into their own chandeliers as they're fighting, or their own lamps. It cracks me up. But there's so many lightsabers that you're like, oh man, it's awesome. They're all nerds just like the rest of us.
Yes. And some people are like in their backyards. Some are very much in their house that they did not make sets for. Mm-hmm. The machine that is used to suck the life out of Wesley is like a garden hose and a hot tub.
Or when Buttercup is swimming in the ocean with the screaming eels, it's just her backyard. It's her pool in the backyard. There's these like fake, though terrifying.
The puppet for the screaming eel is like amazing.
It is terrifying. Yeah, I was like, wow, they put a lot of work into that.
But then other people, like scaling the cliffs of insanity, is just awesome. Legos going up a rope.
Mm-hmm. It is great, and I have to tell you. I'm glad you shouted out Javier Bardem, who's Inigo Montoya in the climactic scene. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Because I was like, holy crap. I couldn't figure out who it was. I was like, who is this? Because he looks like Mandy Patinkin. He looks like the original Inigo Montoya. And so I did a quick look, and I was like, oh, yeah, of course. Javier Bardem's like one of the greatest actors of this generation. And he's so good at burying himself in a role that I had no idea it was him. And I was like, oh, this is like, it's almost like they cast a young Mandy Patinkin for this. That's amazing.
Yeah, and if for whatever reason the name is like, just not clicking for any of you, just look at the guy's IMDb page, and you'll be like, oh my God, I've seen 100 of his movies.
Well, that is, I have to say, one of the things that is a little jarring about this film is when you encounter an actor who is not known for comedy. So when Javier Bardem is on, and all I'm thinking of is No Country for Old Men, which was one of the darkest films ever made. He won the Oscar for it. He was amazing. But he's also the bad guy in, is it Skyfall? Or he's a bad guy in one of the more recent Bond movies, and he's phenomenal in it. He's just an amazing actor. And so that threw me. And then probably the most jarring cut for me is when I don't remember what scene is happening in the story, but then they cut to the grandfather reading to the kid again, and it's always somebody new, and it's J.K. Simmons, but it's J.K. Simmons doing his very serious, like, psychiatrist from Law & Order SVU voice. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my God, because people forget J.K. Simmons was like, he was in Oz. He was, the psychiatrist on Law & Order. Like, he was mostly a dramatic character actor in some really dark stuff, before he became, get me pictures of Spider-Man, and he's a great actor, but that one was really jarring. And then John Malkovich was really jarring for me too. But I think John Malkovich is just always jarring whenever you first see him on screen. There's always a little bit of a shock it's almost like seeing an alien life form for the first time, and you're like, and then it takes you a moment to adjust to it. You're like, oh, it's just John Malkovich.
Yeah. Well, there's like that moment where you're like, oh my God, they got John Malkovich to be in this, and then it clicks. Of course, John Malkovich is in this.
Mm-hmm. So I have to say, as much as there are fun performances, there are also really touching moments in it for me, like meta touching in casting. Mm-hmm. One of which I want to call out. There's sort of bookended at the very beginning and very end of the movie. The one I'll call out.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going, because that.
Yeah, I'll do the opening. There. You do the closing. So the opening one is having Fred Savage as the sick kid at home who the grandpa's going to read to, because Fred Savage in the original movie is actually the sick kid who Columbo. Why am I blanking on Columbo's name?
Peter Falk.
Peter Falk, thank you. I keep expecting Peter Falk in that movie to be like, one more thing. So Peter Falk, is the grandpa who's reading to Fred Savage, but it's really cute to have it be Fred Savage. And then do you want to talk about the end?
Yeah. We'll go ahead and add to your part, because, along with that, Rob Reiner is, plays the grandfather at one point in the first chapter. And then at the end, we cut to the grandson being played by Rob Reiner. and the grandfather being played by Rob's real life father, Carl Reiner. And it's a very touching scene in the movie and between father and son, but to kind of put a extra poignant moment as well as a sad note on it, this is Carl Reiner's final on-screen appearance.
Yeah.
Because he died 3 days after recording the actual scene.
It hits you really hard because I wasn't expecting it because Rob Reiner had been the grandfather, which I thought was super cute. I wasn't expecting it. I thought Carl Reiner had passed away before. And so at the very end, when it's Rob Reiner in the bed and it's Carl Reiner, I got kind of choked up because I was like, oh, this had to be right before he died. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, it was literally right before he died. But I mean, but Carl Reiner, like, for people of a certain age, prior to the not just the advent of cable TV, but like the regularity of cable TV being in every home, we all grew up with like 4 channels. And so we all watched the same reruns. And so it's really funny because, even though this show was on way before either one of us was alive, like I grew up watching the Dick Van Dyke Show. I loved that show. It was Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore. And well, Carl Reiner, is the creator of the show, but he's also on the show. He's the guy who's the host of the variety show that Dick Van Dyke writes for. And he was a grown man. This is from, the 60s and, early 60s. And Carl Reiner is probably in his 40s or something at that point, or I don't know what he is, but he's an older guy. He's not young. And so Carl Reiner has been in our lives for like almost 100 years at this point. And then, to have his son, Rob Reiner, be such a huge success and to have his movies have so influenced us, it's such a sweet moment. And then to know the sort of tail end of it is really heartwarming because at the heart of that whole movie is this, beautiful little moment between a grandfather and a grandson, where the grandson is a typical kid who's like, I just want to watch TV and play video games. And the grandfather's like, wait, let me pass something on to you, while I can, something a little slower and a little more in depth. And I want you to sit and listen. And it is an unbelievably touching ending. And I was really moved by it. Were you? It sounds like you were as well.
Yeah. That was definitely one of those, like the moment I saw it, you knew who these people were, and like you could really tell, like that is, of course, they're both very experienced actors. They are acting, but at the same time, they just needed to know the lines because this is a real touching moment between them, and you could kind of even tell, like that was one of those, like Rob Reiner probably in the back of his head knew, I've only got so many more of these moments with my dad. And quite literally, 3 days later, like I know that had to hit hard.
Yeah. But to have captured that sweet moment, like you said, that, they're reading the lines, but the emotion is there otherwise. And, to capture that sweet moment is just phenomenal. And then it's got to be really cool for Rob Reiner, who directed this movie a lifetime ago. This, Princess Bride's from the 80s. Like, this is not, this is literally a lifetime ago. Like, this movie is old enough to have a 401k. And so, so to have it come back around that way and have it have been so impactful for so many people, and have it be this sweet love story and this story of friendship, but also a story about, generational bonding. And then to share that moment with his dad was just awesome. And then again, having Fred Savage at the beginning with Rob Reiner was just phenomenal. Because Fred Savage, I don't know if this is the same way for you, and Fred Savage is smart because he eventually left acting for the most part and went into directing. And I think part of it is because for all of us who grew up watching the Wonder Years, I always see him as a kid. Like, even as an adult, he still has the same face he had as a kid. So I always see him as a child. And even in this movie, even though he's a fully grown adult in the first scene, I still was like, oh yeah, he's a kid. Yeah, it's Fred Savage. It makes total sense.
Yeah. Fred Savage, the dude can act.
Oh yeah.
He and his brother both can play like way much wider range than what they've been typecast as.
Yes.
But yeah, you always see Fred Savage as the kid from the Wonder Years. you always see Ben Savage as Corey from Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they get to play some kind of psycho murderer on Law and Order or, Lifetime movie or something.
Yeah.
You're always going to be like, you're just going to be like, hey, Fred Savage, why are you out here, kidnapping girls when you could go hang out with Winnie Cooper and get them mauled?
I mean, who wouldn't choose Winnie Cooper?
I mean, to be fair, she's smarter than you and I put together.
Oh my God, yeah, totally. No, she's like a math science genius. But there's an entire generation of kids our age or men our age or women our age who have a huge crush on Winnie Cooper still.
And why wouldn't they?
Exactly.
Oh, we need to just make an offshoot Winnie Cooper podcast.
I think we should do a your first crushes, because I think like Jared Leto from My So-Called Life, Jordan Catalano. I think for a lot of people, I think Winnie Cooper from Wonder Years. I mean, for me, it's Aaron Gray from Buck Rogers and Silver Spoons. But that's a whole different thing. Buck Rogers opened a lot of doors for a lot of people, I think.
I mean, we discussed this off air. I'm just slightly younger than you, so we're probably Alyssa Milano from Who's the Boss, but
yeah,
potato kind of thing.
Yeah. And it is funny to see, speaking of actors of different ages, it's funny to see actors like Jenna Ortega in this, who's, really young and was just in the Awesome Wednesday series, which I think was on Netflix, where she's Wednesday Addams. Did you watch that? She's phenomenal in that.
I did not. I think memes have ruined me on Jenna Ortega, because everything is all about, her coming out at the whichever award show it was, just having RBF, and like every still shot for every show she's in is just her doing that same RBF expression. And it's like, y'all, I know this girl can act because you keep giving her roles. Let's actually see her range.
Yeah. But Wednesday is really good. I would recommend it. It's a fun show. It's basically, if you're a fan of Scooby-Doo, it's just a Scooby-Doo mystery with the Addams Family. It's great.
Oh my God. Okay. That is like the best pitch I've been given for this show.
Yeah. It's literally Scooby-Doo meets the Addams Family, but just live action. It's awesome. It really is. It's a very simple show that knows what it is. It's a Scooby-Doo small town, ghost mystery. And it's awesome. It's really great.
They did do Scooby-Doo meets the Addams Family, right, Sean?
Oh, no, I know. Yeah, Scooby-Doo.
Okay, just saying, because he also met the Three Stooges, Scooby-Doo, Batman and Robin,
Murder, She Wrote, Scooby-Doo, and, they did all of it, Scooby-Doo meets Sophie's Choice was a little far for me, but, other than that, I've been a big fan of most of them. The Scooby-Doo Saw crossover was intense, but, which is actually what that new Velma show is on HBO, basically. It kind of is Scooby-Doo meets Saw. But, we were digressing. So the great shot-for-shot remake for a great cause. I think it's awesome. And then again, like you said, some really touching moments and some really touching casts. The other one I would give a shout-out to is when they bring in Angela, Oscar, and Kevin from The Office. And Kevin is a Fezzik, the giant. Actually, the casting of the Giants across the board was great, because Kevin as Fezzik is phenomenal. Though my favorite one was Jason Segel from, like Forgetting Sarah Marshall and all kinds of other great, I Love You Man, other great movies. And from How I Met Your Mother, Jason Segel not only is a great Fezzik, but he does the voice so well that it's really funny. When he's like, anybody want a peanut? He does it perfectly. That was pure joy.
Talk about people that really need to be able to show their range more often.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason Segel. Oh my God, my mind went blank for a moment there. Neil Patrick Harris and his husband.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's overacting to the extreme, and you love every second of it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is awesome.
Jack Black does a really, really interesting take on Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
especially since he's supposed to be dangling off a cliff, and you just kind of see him at an angle, slowly crawling up the steps to a fountain or something.
No, it's phenomenal. And that section is hard when Wesley's wearing the Dread Pirate Roberts mask, because it takes you a second. Jack Black is immediate, but it takes you a second to figure out who the different Wesleys are with the mask on. Like David Spade is great. That's hilarious. But yeah, Jack Black is just always Jack Black. He was awesome.
Yeah. John Hamm is one that actually will probably get by you if you're not really paying attention. Gosh, I mean, there are so many people in this, like, that you either don't realize that Elijah Wood, if you're not looking at his eyes, you really don't notice it being him.
Well, it's so great that they pair him with Andy Serkis. I mean, that's awesome. You're like, oh, it's Frodo and Gollum. That's so great.
Yes, and again, somebody that has range that you don't know, Andy Serkis, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows him for all his mocap stuff, but he's out there making Prince Humperdinck into, or not Humperdinck, Count Rugen into almost a Shakespearean role.
Yeah.
He's taking it serious.
Yeah. And that is what I like about this, is the range in tone. It's the folks who are really giving it, like, I'm going to treat this as the most dramatic thing of all time. And then the ones who are like laughing right along with you. And it's just such a nice cut from one to the other. And I guess, I mean, look, maybe Quibi was ahead of its time, in that it's, short attention span theater, basically. Like, maybe this, like, quick edit, quick cut, different change of tones and paces is actually perfect for today's audience. I mean, effectively, Quibi was, a TikTok network, before TikTok really took off.
Yeah, essentially, it kind of was. Like I said, this was broken up into 10, 6-ish minute chapters.
Mm-hmm.
The whole runtime of this all spliced together is like an hour and 8 minutes, something like that. And that includes like some time for actually showing the chapter breaks.
Mm-hmm.
The whole this benefits I can never keep
World
that
Central
straight.
Kitchen.
Thank you, World Central Kitchen. But yeah, I mean, this, I don't have bad things to say about this.
Mm-mm.
It's a lot of people having a lot of fun for a really good cause during a time that a lot of people really needed a bright spot. And I mean, with these chapters were released one a day from June 29th to July 8th, 2020. I mean, like right there in the panic mode time of COVID.
Well, and it's a good thing they did it then, so because Quibi would have been scuttled not much longer. I do have to say, though, the one thing I do want to say, and I don't know if this matters to anybody but me, I actually really struggle with watching TV from COVID era. Like anytime I turn on something and it's clearly filmed during COVID, or like if I'm watching a snippet of like a show I like a talk show, for example, and everybody's really separated I actually really have trouble doing it because I don't want to think back to that time. I don't want to be taken back to that time. And you could actually not know this was done during COVID and it's fine. Like there's nothing in it tells you it's during COVID. It's just common sense to say like, oh, why are they doing a guerrilla filmmaking like with their phones? Like, oh, okay, that's why. But it also could have just been a fun experiment for charity. So if you're somebody who's like, I stay away from anything that reminds me of COVID, this doesn't in any way.
Right. Yeah. There is nothing in this that would like really directly trigger anything like that.
Mm-mm.
And that's part of the beauty of it too, because like I said, it's a lot of people just goofing around, having fun, and helping out a good cause because they really couldn't do anything else. And I'm sure it took everybody's mind off of a lot of stuff for even, the 3 minutes that some of them are on screen.
Well, I can't imagine the Herculean task of organizing this, of coordinating, like, okay, who's on board? Okay, who can do which part? And some people are going to have preferences because of just outfits they have lying around, or some people are going to want, like how do you possibly just coordinating all of this must have been a Herculean effort. So good on them for putting this together. But yeah, I'm so glad that this was what you had me watch, and you know, it was just such a treat. It was really nice. One, you know, anytime you revisit The Princess Bride is phenomenal, but it was really, really cool to get like a cute kind of new spin on it without losing what makes it special.
Right. Really the only big actual drawback I can think is that if for some reason you tried to watch this without ever actually having seen the original movie, you will get lost with all the quick changes in actors, who's playing what, especially since, you know, they go through gender swaps and race swaps like within mere seconds of each other sometimes.
Yeah, definitely this is not a watch first and then watch the source material. This is an homage. This is, you know, a tribute to the source material. So you're going to miss all the charm of it if you don't know the actual story.
Right. But clearly everyone involved was a fan of the original in some form or fashion. So that's exactly why I count it as a fan film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think it is.
Plus, like I said, it has the exact budget for a fan film you were thinking of. It is, everything was found around the house, hence all the lightsabers and Legos. Except I still want to know, where in the hell did that screeching eel thing come from?
That was like a masterful puppet. I don't know. Yeah, because in that scene, I was like, holy crap, that thing's terrifying. You know, like, that's awful. Like, did they just have that lying around, or did they make that? And I also love when people's kids are in the scenes with them.
Yes.
As like holding something up, or like they need another body because they're supposed to be like a guard or something. That's really cute too.
Oh yeah, Dangle's kid is like riding along with him, and he's always trying to. And that's the other thing. Like, they don't edit out goofs or anything like that. Like, because the dude's telling him, like, come on. No, come on.
Well, and I can't remember which actor it is because it's all so quick cut. But there's during the Inigo Montoya fight, I know it's Javier Bardem playing Inigo Montoya, but I can't remember the other actor in the fight. And he's filming it in his kitchen. And he has like a crystal like light fixture over his table, and it's kind of low, and he keeps hitting it because he's so into the scene. He keeps hitting it with his play sword, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, your wife is gonna kill you. Like, you are gonna break this like obviously very expensive light fixture. But it's just So those moments actually just add charm to it. It's you know, look, talk about a tough task. You know, Princess Bride is amongst the most charming films ever made with the most charming cast ever. And you want to add charm to it, that's a big order, but they do a brilliant job of it. So just you know, nothing negative to say. If you want an hour of joy and you're a fan of the original movie, watch this. It's just delightful.
Oh yeah. I can't remember if it's Taika Waititi or Paul Rudd doing the Wesley thing, and I want to say it's Paul Rudd.
It's Paul Rudd. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see him reach up and start like zooming in on his phone.
Yeah.
And then like he gets to the most dramatic point and then realizes he's zoomed in too far. So he has to like back it out real fast.
No, that's totally Paul Rudd. Yeah, it's awesome.
And it's just kind of like, was that intentional or not? But either way, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Just delightful. Well done. Good selection.
Oh, this is, absolutely wonderful. If you like the original in any way, shape, or form, then watch this one because you'll have just as much fun or more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, Sean, I do appreciate it. Thank you for coming down here and discussing this with me.
No, thanks for having me, man. I always have fun on the fan film episodes. I've had like you described, a pretty wide range of them. This one was just like the Sherlock Holmes one, was super charming, really, really awesome, really delightful. And I'm actually going to show it to my kid soon, who's a big Princess Bride fan. It's just really wonderful. And I would love to help you get out of the basement, but Jared and the guys have just said it's just a one person at a time. So I'm just going to go up first, and I'm sure they're going to let you out after. They promised they would. Delvin has said he would. Jason was smirking, but I'm sure he would. Pat, I don't even know what Pat was doing. He was sharpening a knife, but I'm sure they're going to let you out and it'll be great. And then we'll see each other in the kitchen upstairs.
Yeah. Before you go, I do appreciate you, coming back to do some podcasts and stuff. Faithful listeners might realize you've been gone for a little while. Would you be able to let anybody know where else they could find you out there in the world of podcasting now or in the potential future?
Well, thank you for asking. I, somewhat recently joined the Fire and Water Network. It's just an incredible group of guys. Rob and Ryan and Siskoid, and Chris and Cindy and I don't think I'm leaving anybody out. Just an amazing group of guys, and they reached out and they welcomed me in, and so please check out. It's my first ever show for Fire and Water. It's called Peace Bound and Down, a Wonder Woman podcast, and I love that title, by the way. I know not everybody gets it, but it's anything that can.
Oh, I'm going to be singing that.
I know. Oh, it's in my head all the time. So it's called Peace Bound and Down, a Wonder Woman podcast, and we are covering Wonder Woman runs by sort of singular creators or voices. And so, of course, we are covering the George Perez run where he's the writer and artist. It's an indexing show, so we go issue by issue, and I have a guest on each episode, and it's just been a blast. In fact, Clinton, you will be a guest on an upcoming episode, so we'll get to talk some George Perez Wonder Woman, and then you can always find my older shows on the Pulp to Pixel podcast network, like Secret Wars and Beyond or Squadron Supreme Cast with Gregor Rougeau, who will also be a guest on my Wonder Woman podcast. And yeah, man, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to have been here, and this was just a delight.
Well, you're always welcome down here, but since we're both totally getting out of here, like within the next 5 minutes, right?
Oh yeah, no, totally. Yeah, the guys are not upstairs smirking and laughing at all, or holding up a sign that says "Don't laugh until you're 5 stairs up." He'll know. Okay,
well, that gives me enough time to let you run up there while I play a promo and maybe even record just a little quick bit of listener feedback.
All right, sounds good. I'll see you in a bit.
Woo!
In 1987, a legend was reborn when George Perez and DC Comics recreated and relaunched Wonder Woman, helping bring some truth and understanding to the newly formed post-crisis DC universe. Between the bullets, the bracelets, angry gods, a new city, and a new supporting cast, Wonder Woman rejoined the never-ending battle for a more loving and peaceful way of life. Join me, Sean, and a bevy of all-star podcast guests on Peace Bound and Down, a Wonder Woman podcast, where we review each issue of the George Perez written and drawn Wonder Woman series and try to bring some peace to man's world each month. So find a little bit of paradise, only on the Fire and Water Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, Clinton still here. Thanks for sticking with me. I think Sean abandoned me. Well, he's got that show to produce and all that. I'm sure he just got busy and distracted, and yeah, he'll be back, right? Anyway, a little bit of feedback real fast. Last episode, I had Laurel on to discuss a Zatanna fan film, and we got social media love, at least the ones that I can find, from Rick Heineken, Jim Meal, Pat Sampson, Chris Statos, Delvin, a.k.a. Dark Web, James Gammett, Chris from Professor Frenzy, Ranger Gord, and Glenn Peterman. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. It's not intentional. It's just the way the certain social medias reports all the likes and shares and stuff now. And I want to give a quick shout out to all the Crusader Club members. I don't get the list. This is one of those shows that doesn't get the list. Maybe mine is the only show that doesn't get the list. Lists don't trickle down. They go up. It's something to do with physics. That's what Delvin tells me. I don't know. Anyway, I do want to thank the Crusader Club members, because without you, shows like this could not be possible. I mean, they probably could, but they wouldn't be on cool networks like this. So anyway, that is it for the feedback. So we didn't get really any actual comments or anything. I do want to give another quick shout out of thanks to Sean for being my guest on this episode, and I hope the rest of you will come back and join me again for another Fan Film Friday.
Today you can take your telephone, your cell phone, you can make a movie on that. And if it's a really cool movie that's funny and it's dramatic or whatever, you can post it on YouTube.
If you want to make films and you want to tell stories, you can do it.
After all art is experience.
But if you're obsessed with film and you love to tell stories and you love working in that medium, then that'll give you the strength